The room overflowed with flowers, soft pinks, whites, and plush animals that still had their tags. A gentle lullaby played faintly through the hallway speaker. My daughter had just entered the world. After 3 long years of hoping, waiting, and heartbreak, she was finally here. And in that moment, I was too sore, too stunned, and too overwhelmed with love to do anything but gaze at her delicate face. What I didn't know was that just 15 miles away, someone was quietly unraveling all that joy. My sister Kayla had a spare key to our house. She told us she wanted to help finish setting up the nursery while I recovered in the hospital. Said it was a surprise. At 3:47 p.m., I remember hearing our front door slam. The sound echoed faintly through my husband's phone during a call. I asked softly, "Was that our house?" He stepped away to check. When he returned, his face had gone completely pale. He didn't speak. He simply handed me his phone and hit play on a video. I couldn't look away. The nursery, our baby's room, was torn apart. The crib had been smashed. The wall decals I had carefully picked out at 30 weeks were ripped down and stuffed into trash bags. The changing table had been overturned, drawers emptied like someone had been searching for something. Baby books were shredded, diapers scattered. Only a single balloon floated in one corner, mocking the moment. And on the wall, scrawled in black marker over the soft wallpaper, were 5 words. "You needed this wake-up call." I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it was folding in on itself. I tried to sit up, but the pain from my stitches pulled sharply. My husband reached for me, but I barely registered the touch. It was Kayla, my only sister. She knew what this baby meant to me. She'd been there through the miscarriages. She had cried with me, prayed for us. So why? Before I could begin to process it, the door to my hospital room opened. Heavy boots. Crisp uniform. Medals shining across the chest. It was my father-in-law, Mark, a retired Marine general, standing silently in the doorway. He took one look at my husband's expression, then at the paused image on the phone screen, and didn't blink. He asked just one question. "Where is she?" Kayla was still at our house. She didn't know he was coming. She didn't hear him enter. That's the part that replays most often in my mind. While I lay in a hospital bed, stitches still healing and heart aching, Kayla stood barefoot on our baby's nursery rug, sipping tea like nothing had happened. She was on the phone, laughing, when Mark walked in. Not with me. Not apologizing. Just laughing. He didn't shout. Didn't slam the door. He simply stepped into the mess she had made. His polished boots pressed into a chaos of shredded diapers and torn books. A baby mobile hung twisted above, like a broken memory. Kayla turned, startled. The mug slipped from her hands and shattered against the floor. "Sir," she began as if formality would fix it. Mark didn't say a word. He kept walking forward, every metal on his uniform catching the hallway light. A man who once commanded troops overseas now stood in the ruins of his granddaughter's first room. "I thought," she stammered. "I thought it would help. Wake her up. She's too soft. She doesn't understand how hard raising a baby is." He raised one hand. She fell silent. Then, in the calmest voice I've ever heard, he said, "You destroyed the sanctuary of a child who hasn't even been alive a full week. That is not help. That is war." She gave a nervous laugh. "You're not seriously." But he wasn't smiling. From the hallway, he pulled out his phone and began taking photos. Methodical, clear shots of every corner, every rip, every message on the wall. "Leave," he said flatly. "Now. Before I call the police. Or your employer." Her face changed. "You wouldn't." He stepped closer. "I've written field reports more thorough than your resume. One call." She hesitated, then grabbed her things and rushed out the door. He didn't follow. He simply stood there, surrounded by what had once been a peaceful space, the soft pink wallpaper behind him torn and ruined. And then he whispered to the empty room. "No one hurts my family." By the time I was discharged from the hospital, the house had been cleaned. Not by her, of course, but by my husband, Mark, and 2 of his retired military friends. They handled every broken frame, every ripped page, like it was part of an official investigation. We tried to repaint the nursery. Tried to rehang decals. But the room felt different. Like it remembered. I stood in the doorway holding my daughter and whispered, This will never happen again. And I meant it. Kayla never reached out. No apology. No explanation. But I started to hear things. A friend in HR mentioned whispers at her job. A neighbor saw her leave her place in tears. An aunt mentioned a strange group text she sent. I guess I'm the villain now. Everyone's so dramatic. She was playing the victim. As always. But what she didn't know was that Mark hadn't stopped at taking pictures. He filed a formal police report. Documented every detail. Logged every repair receipt. Collected statements. It was quiet. Legal. Meticulous. I didn't even know until I found a labeled folder on our kitchen table. Infant property damage. Civil and criminal options. His handwriting was meticulous. Clean. Careful. Not a single line betrayed emotion. He wasn't reacting out of anger. He was documenting. Building something deliberate. One morning, as casually as if he were commenting on the weather while pouring coffee, Mark asked, "Do you want me to press charges?" I looked down at my daughter, asleep in her bassinet. "I want her to feel what I felt," I said quietly. "Not physically. Emotionally. That helplessness." He gave a single nod. Understood. Within the week, a formal letter was sent to Kayla's employer. Not from me, but through a licensed attorney. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't accusatory. It simply laid out the facts, that she had entered a private residence without permission, caused property damage, and inflicted emotional distress on a household with an infant. The letter also noted that civil action was under review. That's when the cracks began to show. Kayla started posting cryptic quotes on social media, then deleted them. Switched her profile to private, then public again. And then finally, she called me. Her voice was low and strained. "You're ruining my life over some baby furniture." I barely smiled. "No," I replied. "You did that." And I hung up. By the second week, the fallout was no longer subtle. Her job placed her on leave while they conducted an internal review. She deleted her LinkedIn. Family group chats split like fractured glass. Some defended her. Others just asked, why would she even do something like that? The story had already leaked, not by me, but through the chain of evidence. The letter. The police report. The photos that had circulated quietly from one person to another. Suddenly, the truth had its own momentum. And still, not once did she say the words. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I was wrong." Nothing. Instead, she texted my husband. "Your father's gone too far. She's using the baby to punish me." That was the moment I stopped second-guessing. The moment I let go of guilt. Because there's a kind of damage you don't come back from. The kind where someone looks at your newborn child and sees nothing but a chance to hurt you. So I got to work. Quietly. Intentionally. I contacted the baby registry company. They had security footage from the day Kayla had walked into the store and canceled nearly half of our in-store registry items. My best friend sent me screenshots, texts from weeks earlier where Kayla had hinted about taking things down a notch. A mom in our neighborhood messaged me privately. She'd overheard Kayla at a nearby cafe talking about how I'd been getting too much attention lately. Piece by piece, the truth assembled itself. No drama. No yelling. Just facts. Clear as daylight. And then came the baby shower photos. Hers, from 4 years ago. I reposted one. No caption. Just her, glowing in front of a beautiful nursery, surrounded by gifts and joy. People understood. Someone commented. Wild how someone who had so much joy for her own child could destroy someone else's. The truth spread on its own. Quietly. Organically. She noticed. A new message came through. This time, just one sentence. "You really want to ruin me?" I replied. "No. I want you to remember what you ruined. Every single time you see a crib, hear a lullaby, or walk past a baby aisle, I want you to remember." The knock came just before midnight. I was rocking my daughter by the window. Her soft breathing warmed my chest. I saw the silhouette move across our porch. Arms crossed, pacing, agitated. At first, I thought it was a neighbor. Then I recognized the shape. Kayla. I didn't open the door immediately. My husband came down the stairs, eyes sharp even in sleep. You want me to handle this? I shook my head. I gently laid our daughter in her bassinet and walked to the door myself. Kayla didn't wait to be invited in. She stepped across the threshold like nothing had changed, like she hadn't fractured this space just 2 weeks earlier. Okay, she said, her voice already cracking. I messed up. I know that. But you're turning this into a spectacle. You have to stop. I looked at her, her shaking hands, red-rimmed eyes, the last bits of pride slipping away. You didn't just mess up, I said quietly. You violated something sacred. She let out a bitter laugh. God, you always act like you're some kind of saint. It was just furniture. A stupid room. My voice cut through hers. It was hope. She blinked. That room was where I sat every night, wondering if I'd ever get to hold a child. That color on the wall? I picked it after my 4th miscarriage. That room was the only part of this house untouched by grief. Until you brought yours in. She fell silent, breathing uneven, tears collecting on her lashes. I've lost everything, she whispered. My job. Half my friends won't even return my calls. You lost the version of yourself they thought they knew, I said. The version you performed. Not the person you actually became. She stepped forward. So that's it? You're cutting me out. I glanced at the bassinet. No, I answered softly. But I'm done making you the center of my forgiveness. Behind me, my husband raised his phone and pressed play. The video played, Our Nursery in Ruins. The scrawled message on the wall. And her voice, unmistakable in the background. She needs to wake up. Her eyes widened. You recorded it? He stayed calm. No. You did. We had cameras installed last month. You forgot. She opened her mouth but said nothing. I didn't speak again. She walked out in silence. And this time, the door didn't slam. It closed, softly. Finally. But the quiet didn't last. Within 48 hours, her voice returned. Just not in my home. She posted a half-hearted apology video to her private story. Dim lighting. Oversized sweater. A soft filter. I made mistakes, she whispered. But I've been through a lot too. I just wish people knew the whole story. She didn't name me. She didn't have to. The caption said it all. Some wounds go both ways. Forgiveness is for the strong. She was rewriting it again, turning the wreckage into a metaphor. Casting herself as the misunderstood one. Recasting the victim. But this time, I didn't stay silent. I responded with clarity. A simple carousel post. First image, our nursery before, bathed in warm yellow light. Crib set up. Books in neat rows. A delicate name banner hanging above. Second image. The aftermath. Broken wood. Scattered books. The words carved in black. Final image. My daughter's tiny fingers wrapped around mine. No caption. No tags. Just 3 dates. Later that night, I sat by the nursery window, moonlight casting soft shadows across the floor we once rebuilt from splinters. I opened a small box tucked in the closet, the last remnants of the room she wrecked. A torn piece of wallpaper. A corner of the old mobile. I waited to feel something. Grief. Anger. Nostalgia. But there was nothing. Just stillness. The kind of silence that doesn't ache. It settles. The kind you earn when you choose peace over performance. Because in the end, she didn't destroy me. She unmasked herself. And I chose not to follow. So when I tell my daughter stories of strength, I won't speak of vengeance. I'll speak of rebuilding. I'll teach her that love isn't always loud, that sometimes, love is the decision to stay standing when someone else walks away. I'll teach her that some stories aren't stolen. They are rewritten by the ones who stayed. And I'll remind her of this. On the day someone tried to fracture her future before it began, her family didn't flinch. We didn't fight fire with fire. We just stood. And the destroyer disappeared all on her own.